You talked before about kind of the neuroscience behind this. I'd love to get a little bit of, I love your data focus. And I love those stats, like two-thirds of people are burned out. I'm like, oh my goodness. Because we all know if we don't have high performance teams, we don't have a business, right? And if two-thirds are burned out, that's a problem. But take us through the neuroscience.
Yeah, so this is where I'm such a dork about this stuff. And it's so fascinating once you understand it. So there's both the neuroscience of connection and then there's the neuroscience of change. So I'll start with the neuroscience of connection. So as human beings, we are biologically wired to need human connection. So this goes all the way back to when we first stood up on 2 feet. If we were alone, right? If I was not part of a group or a tribe, it means I would die, right? I needed to be accepted into the cave, right? If I was out on the plains alone, I couldn't survive, right? The saber-toothed tiger would get me, something would get me. We like to think we're these higher order beings now. We're not. That neurology has not changed. And so Abe Maslow almost had it right, his pyramid of needs. He actually had belonging up. And I think were he alive today with the neuroscans and the things that he could see, he would understand we see belonging as a safety need. So if I'm coming into work, I need to feel like I belong. If I don't, here's what happens. If something happens to me where I feel like I am not a part of the team, or somebody has done, whether usually it's unintentionally, I go into amygdala hijack, right? I go into fight or flight. My IQ drops. I am literally trying to figure out, I'm not thinking about what case I might be working on if I'm Jeremy, right? I might not be thinking about the billable hours. I am into my lizard brain. What do I do to be safe again to make so I belong? So when we're talking about cultures of connection, when we're talking about teamwork, when we're talking about belonging and fit and all of that, it's a biological, neurological need. It is not warm and fuzzy at all, right? If you want high performance, you figure out that piece of it. The other piece, when we're talking about change, is we spend about half our life in habit, right? So if you think about a time that you showed up in a parking lot somewhere and you don't remember the drive. Or in the morning, you're standing in your kitchen with a cup of coffee and you don't remember brushing your teeth, you don't remember choosing your clothes, you don't remember any of that, right? We're in habit. Why are we doing that? Although our brain only takes up a very small percent of our body mass, it consumes the lion's share of oxygen. So we stay in habit loops so that we're protecting our brain so it can be working on the important things, not what socks am I going to wear today, but what do I need to do in this legal brief? When we have a high rate of change, think about the last time, I don't know, whatever email provider you use changed their layout. And suddenly you're having to think about what's the send? How do I change my signature? Right. And you're out of habit. And so you're spending oxygen, you're spending on something that is not higher order thinking, right? It is whatever that change has tossed in front of me. And I think what's interesting, Jeremy, I loved what you were saying, like you've made the mistake of too much change at once. Wouldn't it be great if we could put our employees in a bubble and they weren't also experiencing external change? Because it's not just the change that's happening in our organizations, it's also the change that's happening out in the world, right? So what's happening in their life. So suddenly we want to be in habit, but we can't because there's this change happening. So we're having to think about all of these things that we normally wouldn't think about. And so we need to allow people understand what's the skill set where they can be really good at circling through that change quickly, right? So that they can get back into habit on the mundane.